Close your eyes for a moment and picture America in 1946. The war is over. Our boys are home. And for the first time in years, people can dream again. The highways are filling up with brand new Chevrolets and Fords. Chrome gleaming in the California sun. Families are moving out of cramped city apartments and into fresh-built suburbs with white picket fences and two-car garages. The future looks bright, efficient, modern, and Americans are hungry, not just for food, though that too, but for a new kind of life, a life on wheels, a life of convenience and speed. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you about the 1940s dining experience. It was chaos. If you wanted to eat out, you'd pull into a drive-in restaurant. You'd park your car, wait for a car hop, usually a young woman on roller skates, to come take your order on a little notepad. Then you'd wait, and wait, and wait some more. 20 minutes later, maybe longer, she'd bring out your burger on a real plate, with real silverware, tucked onto a tray that hooked onto your car window. Sounds charming, doesn't it? Except the food was often cold. The silverware was greasy. Half the time, your order was wrong, and if you had kids in the back seat, forget it, absolute pandemonium. The whole system was slow, expensive, and unpredictable. Drive-ins had enormous menus, sometimes 25 items or more. Barbecue, hot dogs, chicken, burgers, sandwiches. The kitchen staff couldn't keep up. Orders got mixed up. Quality varied wildly from one night to the next. For restaurant owners, it was a nightmare. High labor costs, broken dishes. Teenagers hanging out in the parking lot, turning your respectable eatery into a rowdy scene. The American drive-in was ripe for disruption. And in San Bernardino, California, a modest little city 60 miles east of Los Angeles, two brothers were about to change everything. Meet Maurice and Richard McDonald, Mac and Dick to everyone who knew them. They weren't businessmen, not in the traditional sense. They were tinkerers, problem solvers, the kind of men who couldn't leave well enough alone. The brothers had moved to California during the Depression, chasing the same golden promise as millions of others. After a few failed ventures, they opened a drive-in restaurant in 1940 in San Bernardino. For a while, it worked. They made money. They employed car hops. They served barbecue. But Dick McDonald, the meticulous one, the engineer of the pair, kept noticing the same problems over and over, the chaos, the waste, the inefficiency. By 1948, the brothers were exhausted. They were making money, sure, but they weren't proud of what they were running. It was sloppy, unpredictable. They wanted something better, so they did something radical. They shut down their successful restaurant, fired all the car hops, and rebuilt it from scratch. What they created would change American culture forever. In December 1948, the McDonald brothers reopened their restaurant with a system they called Speedee Service, and it was absolutely brilliant. First, they slashed the menu. No more barbecue, no more hot dogs, no more complicated orders. 9 items, that's it. Hamburgers, cheeseburgers, French fries, milkshakes, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, soft drinks, coffee, milk, pie. By focusing on just a handful of items, they could perfect each one. Standardize it. Make it exactly the same every single time. But the real genius was in the kitchen. Dick McDonald redesigned the kitchen like Henry Ford designed a car factory. It was an assembly line, but for food. One man grilled the burgers, another dressed them. Pickles, onions, ketchup, mustard, every burger exactly the same way. Another handled the fries, another the drinks. No more waiting around, No more confusion. No more hold the onions or extra mayo. You got what you got, and you got it fast. They also eliminated the car hops entirely. No more table service, no more dishes to wash. Customers walked up to a window, ordered, and got their food in paper bags and paper cups. 30 seconds, that's all it took. The brothers called it fast food. And then there was the building itself. In 1952, the brothers hired an architect named Stanley Meston to design a restaurant that would stop traffic, literally. They wanted something so eye-catching, so modern, that people driving by on Route 66 couldn't help but notice. Meston came back with something audacious. 2 gigantic golden arches rising up from either side of the building like a rocket ship ready for takeoff. The arches were 25 feet tall, bright yellow, neon lit at night. You could see them from a mile away. Inside, everything was red and white tile, clean, bright, almost clinical. The kitchen was visible through big glass windows. You could watch your burger being made. This was transparency. This was modern America. The message was clear. This isn't your father's greasy diner. This is the future. But here's what sealed the deal. The price. 15 cents for a hamburger. Let me say that again. 15 cents. At a time when a sit-down burger might cost you 50 or 60 cents, the McDonald brothers were selling theirs for pocket change. And because they'd eliminated all the waste and inefficiency, they could still turn a profit. Suddenly, eating out wasn't a special occasion anymore. It was something you could do on a Tuesday after work. Something you could do with a carload of kids without breaking the bank. The McDonald brothers had turned fast food into a ritual, an affordable, reliable, repeatable ritual. By 1954, their single location in San Bernardino was pulling in $350,000 a year. For one restaurant, that was extraordinary. But here's the thing. Dick and Mac McDonald had no interest in expanding. They were comfortable. They liked their life in California. They didn't want the headache of managing multiple locations or dealing with franchisees. They'd licensed a few franchises here and there, but they were hands-off, almost indifferent. And then a 52-year-old milkshake machine salesman walked into their restaurant, and everything changed. Raymond Albert Kroc was, by most measures, a failure. At 52 years old, he was still on the road, sleeping in cheap motels, driving from diner to diner, trying to sell multi-mixer milkshake machines. He'd been doing it for years, decades even. He'd had big dreams once. He'd played piano in speakeasies during Prohibition. He'd sold paper cups. He'd tried real estate. He'd tried a dozen different schemes, always chasing that one big break. It never came. By 1954, Kroc was exhausted. His marriage was strained. His health wasn't great. He had diabetes, arthritis. He was drinking too much. Most men his age would have given up, settled, accepted their lot. But Ray Kroc had one thing in abundance: hunger, not for food, for success, for recognition, for the American dream he'd been chasing his entire life. In July 1954, Kroc got a call that would change his life. A restaurant in San Bernardino had ordered 8 multi-mixers. 8. Most places ordered 1, maybe 2. 8 meant they were making 40 milkshakes at once. Kroc had to see this for himself. He pulled up to the McDonald brothers restaurant on a hot summer afternoon and just stared. There were lines of people, families, workers, teenagers, all waiting at a simple window. No car hops, no chaos, just pure efficient order. He watched as customers got their food in seconds. He watched as they ate standing up or in their cars and then left, making room for the next wave. And he watched the cash register. Kroc later said it was like watching a printing press for money. He walked into that kitchen and saw Dick McDonald's assembly line in action. Burgers flying off the grill, fries coming out of the fryer, everything timed to perfection. It was beautiful. It was art. But more than that, it was scalable. The brothers had built a system that didn't rely on skilled cooks or expensive ingredients or personal charm. Any 17-year-old kid could learn it in a day. And that meant it could be copied endlessly. Ray Kroc saw something the McDonald brothers didn't see. He saw the future. Not just one restaurant, not 10, not 100. He saw thousands. Over the next few months, Kroc courted the brothers relentlessly. He wanted in. He wanted to be their franchise agent, the man who would take their system nationwide. But there was a fundamental tension from the very beginning. Dick and Mac McDonald were inventors, perfectionists. They cared about quality above all else. They'd turned down franchisees before because they didn't trust them to maintain standards. They wanted control. Ray Kroc didn't care about control, not in that way. Kroc was a salesman, a hustler. He cared about scale, about speed, about winning. He believed that good enough was good enough, that you could always fix problems later. That expansion, rapid, relentless expansion, was the only thing that mattered. In 1955, the brothers reluctantly agreed. Kroc would become their franchise agent. He'd take a percentage of franchise fees and royalties. But the agreement was shaky from the start. The brothers insisted on approving every franchise, every detail. They nickeled and dimed Kroc on fees. They resisted his ideas. Dick McDonald once told Kroc, "We've got a good thing here in California. Why risk it?" Kroc's answer was simple: because America is bigger than California. In the first few years, Kroc worked like a man possessed. He opened McDonald's franchises in Illinois and Indiana and Ohio. He recruited franchisees. He refined the training. He enforced the standards with an iron fist. But he was barely making money. The brothers' contract gave him only a tiny sliver of the profits. He was drowning in debt, working 18-hour days, barely scraping by. Meanwhile, back in San Bernardino, the McDonald brothers were collecting royalty checks and playing golf. The resentment grew. Kroc wanted to make changes, new menu items, new marketing strategies, new building designs. The brothers resisted. They were cautious, stubborn, protective of their creation. To Kroc, they were holding him back. To the brothers, Kroc was reckless, pushy, a man who didn't understand or respect what they'd built. By 1960, Kroc had had enough. He wanted the brothers out, and he was willing to do whatever it took. Here's something most people don't know. Ray Kroc didn't build his empire by selling hamburgers. He built it by selling real estate. In 1956, Kroc met a man named Harry Sonneborn, a sharp financial mind who saw something Kroc had missed. The real money wasn't in the franchise fees or the burger sales. It was in the land. Sonneborn proposed a genius and ruthless strategy. McDonald's Corporation would buy or lease the land where each franchise was built. Then they'd sublease it to the franchisee at a markup. This did two things. First, it gave Kroc a steady, reliable income stream that didn't depend on the McDonald brothers or their royalty agreement. Second, and this was the kicker, it gave him control. If a franchisee didn't follow the rules, didn't maintain standards, didn't toe the line, Kroc could evict them. He owned the land. He held the power. The McDonald brothers had no idea this was happening. They were still back in California, collecting their small royalty checks, oblivious to the machine Kroc was building. By 1960, Kroc had leverage, and he was ready to use it. In 1961, Ray Kroc made the McDonald brothers an offer, $2.7 million. He would buy them out completely. They'd walk away with cash, a fortune by the standards of the day, and Kroc would own the McDonald's name, the system, everything. The brothers were tired. They'd been fighting with Kroc for years. They wanted out, so they agreed. But here's where the story gets dark. According to later accounts, there was a handshake deal, a gentleman's agreement, that the brothers would receive 1% of the company's future profits. Forever, 1% doesn't sound like much. But if that deal had been honored, each brother would have made over $100 million a year by the 1990s. Billions over their lifetimes. But the agreement was never put in writing. Kroc later claimed it never happened. The brothers said it did. There were no witnesses, no lawyers in the room. What we do know is this. The McDonald brothers got their $2.7 million. And after taxes and debts, they each walked away with about $1 million. It was a lot of money in 1961, enough to retire comfortably. But it was nothing compared to what McDonald's would become. But Ray Kroc wasn't done. Here's the cruelest part of the story. The buyout agreement gave Kroc the rights to the McDonald's name, the golden arches, the Speedee System, everything. Except for one thing, the original restaurant in San Bernardino. The brothers insisted on keeping it. It was their baby, their legacy. They couldn't bear to give it up, so they kept it, but they had to change the name. They called it the Big M. And then, in what can only be described as an act of pure spite, Ray Kroc opened a brand new McDonald's just 1 block away from the brothers' original location. He undercut their prices. He used the full weight of the McDonald's Corporation's marketing machine. He made sure every customer in San Bernardino knew this was the real McDonald's. The Big M never stood a chance. Within a few years, Dick and Mac McDonald closed their restaurant. The place where it all began, the birthplace of fast food, was gone. Ray Kroc had won completely. Dick and Mac McDonald lived out the rest of their lives in quiet obscurity. They never spoke publicly about the buyout. They never complained. They'd made their peace with it, or so they said. Mac McDonald died in 1971. Dick lived until 1998, long enough to see McDonald's become a global colossus. 30,000 locations, billions of burgers sold. In his later years, Dick McDonald gave a few interviews. When asked if he regretted the deal, he said simply, "I would have liked more money, but I'm not bitter." Whether that was true, we'll never know. By the time Ray Kroc died in 1984, McDonald's was everywhere, not just in America. Everywhere. Tokyo, Paris, Moscow, Sydney. The Golden Arches had become one of the most recognizable symbols on earth. More recognizable than the Christian cross, some studies claimed. McDonald's didn't just change how we eat. It changed how food is grown, processed, and distributed. It created entire industries, factory farms, frozen food technology, standardized training systems. It changed architecture. Drive-through windows became ubiquitous. It changed labor. The very concept of the McJob entered the American vocabulary. It changed childhood. Happy Meals, play places, birthday parties at McDonald's became a generational experience. and it changed the American landscape itself. McDonald's thrived in the suburbs, those car-dependent communities springing up around every major city. The Golden Arches became a landmark, a beacon on the highway. It told you, here is civilization, here is consistency, here is home. For better or worse, Ray Kroc's vision had come true. He'd built an empire. He'd standardized the world. So who was right? Dick and Mac McDonald built something beautiful, something innovative, something that worked. They valued quality. They valued control. They wanted to perfect their craft, to take pride in what they'd created. Ray Kroc saw their invention and recognized its potential. Potential the brothers either couldn't see or didn't want. He was ruthless. He was ambitious. He was willing to sacrifice relationships, integrity, even basic decency in pursuit of his vision. The brothers created fast food, but Kroc created the fast food industry. Today, McDonald's serves 70 million customers every single day. It employs over 2 million people. It's worth over $200 billion. The McDonald brothers got $2.7 million in a handshake. Was Ray Kroc a visionary? A man who saw the future and had the courage to seize it? Or was he a thief? A man who took someone else's idea, pushed out the creators, and claimed all the glory? Maybe he was both. Maybe that's the real story of America, a place where innovation and ambition collide, where dreamers build empires and sometimes leave their partners behind. The McDonald brothers invented the future. Ray Kroc sold it to the world. And the rest of us? We're still eating it.